Hey guys, and welcome to Space Engineers Survival Tutorial, where we're going to be covering the basics of starting in survival Space Engineers. First, what you need to do is buy the game. There are DLCs you can also purchase, but they are cosmetic, and until you're sure you want the game, I don't advise purchasing them. Once you load into the main screen, you'll see the 6 buttons on the side. The first one is Exit to Windows, which exits the game. Your character, which allows you to change the look of the character. Options, which allows you to change the game settings. Join game, which allows you to join multiplayer games. Load game, which allows you to load a game you've already created. And the one that we're going to be clicking for your first time, New Game. Once you click New Game, there are 3 tabs you can have. The first one is the Scenarios tab, which are maps made by the game with scenarios to complete. You've got Workshop ones, which you can unlock by accessing the Steam Workshop. And then you've got Custom Game, which is the main maps that you actually play on. Now, all the maps are in alphabetical order, which is why the main map is all the way at the bottom. You can click on Star System and it will open up this tab here on the side. So you can name the game, which I'm going to name Tutorial. You've got a description, which allows you to explain what the map's about. You can change the game mode from creative or survival. Different online modes. You've got offline, private, which means you need a password. Friends, which only allows your Steam friends on, and public, which is open to everyone. The max players sets how many people can be on the map at one time. Autosave, and then you've got advanced options, which allows for more advanced settings to be added. But we'll leave all that alone for now. So afterwards, you can press start. Once you load in, you'll come to this page, and it gives you a whole bunch of different places. You got Earth-like drop pod, which is just a pod, and it has the difficulty easy, it has 90% oxygen, and it has the standard 1G of gravity. The alien drop pod, which shows the different difficulties. Got the moon drop pod, which is somewhat unique as it's a rover, but it's considered hard. Space pod, which is the only other different one, which is also considered hard. Just for the basic start, we're going to go with Earth-like, which is easy, and click respawn. Once you load in, you'll be put into this ship, which will slowly land. You can press V to go from first to third person. On your way down, a parachute will open, and you will slowly be lowered to the ground. It's preferable to land somewhere flat, as well that allows the ship to be to land properly, but it doesn't really matter, you'll just roll if you don't. In this case, the landing gears did lock, and we landed somewhere flat. If you don't like where you landed, you can always press the backspace button and you can respawn. For basics, along the bottom left, you'll see UI, and on the left shows the needs that you have. So from top to bottom, you've got your health, which goes down when you take damage. Next, you've got oxygen, which tells you how much oxygen you have. That's more important when you're on space or other planets that doesn't have their own oxygen. You've got energy. It allows your suit power for things like lights and when you use tools. You've got your hydrogen, which will go down with jetpack use. And of course, there are also the suit options, which you can see, which includes J, which opens and closes your visor like this. You've got X, which is for your jetpack. O, which is for your signal, which doesn't really matter in a single player, and L for lights. You've also got the speed and dampener tab. The white one shows how fast you're moving in meters per second, and dampeners have 2 types. You have dampeners on, press Z, dampeners go off, and if you go Control Z looking at a different ship, you can go dampeners auto, which means it will set its movement based on how the other ship's moving. Of course, then you can also cycle through what the HUD looks like by pressing T, tab, as it states. I personally, if you're still learning, leave it on, because then you can see all the numbers you need to click. You have multiple hotbars, so if you press Control and a number, or full stop and comma key for me, you can move between all 9 different hotbars, which you can customize with different items. But in the basic toolbar that you come with, you've got the welder, which allows you to weld blocks. You've got the grinder, which allows you to grind blocks down like this. And of course you've got the drill, which is the main item that we're going to be using for this. If we press I, that will open our inventory when either we're standing here, or if we look at the ship and press I, it also opens the ship's inventory. An antenna, which where if you press Ace, will change your signals to fully visible, so that means no matter what you can see them always. To no names, so they don't actually have names. To off, to back to normal display, which will display names when you look at them, and when you look away, won't. Ship controls, which of course is K to open the control panel, I for inventory, and of course you've got things like production, which allows you to build stuff. To move, it's just WASD. F is the main use key, which is how you get into ships or open the panel. And of course, it says press middle mouse button to withdraw components, which can be used for when you press G in the build planner, which we can explain how to add to later. First, what we want to do is build. So to select a block, you press 4, and that allows you to bring out a block. Now you can press 4 to shrink the block, or R. You can also press B to change orientation. So right now it's gravity line, and now it's local grid, and then free placement, gravity, local grid, which then aligns it to the nearest grid, and gravity. You can also, on full tab page, you can see on the top right the different ways you can move it. So you can move end, which on this mode will flip it around in blocks and gravity line. If you go to free placement, it spins slowly, and you can pretty much move it in any way you like. But what you want to do is find somewhere flat, or in this case, just we're going to use just the side of this hill. We're going to press B, R to put a full block, and we're going to place it into the ground. Now normally you wouldn't need to fill the block, but for just to explain how this works, we're going to. So to build up components, you can either weld, and you can see it's now saying you need more steel plates. You can double click to hold the welder down, so you don't have to hold it down yourself. If you if you right click it, it adds the components you need left to your build planner. You can also add to your build planner by dragging the block from there, or middle mouse buttoning the block in your inventory. You can also search for armor block, and it brings up all the armor blocks. You can also have the ability to drag down blocks into the inventory. You can double click the box, which will bring it into whichever slot selected, but I advise dragging. So once you've middle clicked the box to get into the build queue, what you can do is then shift middle click, and it will then add your components to the build tab. Now what we need to do is get more components to mine. So what we're going to do is grab the drill, and the drill has two modes. Left click, which creates blocks you can mine, and right click, which digs a bigger hole faster, but you don't get any of the resources. Now what we're going to do is double click and do some mining. You hold down F to collect the resources. Okay, so we've got a full inventory, but you can also see that we've gone quite deep. The reason why we've gone so deep is because if you press L to turn on the lights, you can see the different layers. At the top layer you've got the grass, then below that you've got dirt, and below that again you've got this rock. This rock produces more stone in these clumps than the stuff at the top, so mining down to get to the stone allows for faster mining. To get out, you can press X to use the jetpack, which controls with WASD to move, space to go up, and C to go down. Now if you go too fast, like if we go up and then we go down, you can see we've injured ourselves. Now on this you have a survival kit, so if you go to, so when you die you'll respawn here, and if you press F you can recharge your hydrogen from the H2 generator that's on the side there, your health, as well as your energy, as long as it continues to have power. So now we're going to put this 3k of stone, but as it can only store 1000 liters, which is 2.7k of stone, we have some left over. But the survival kit's not going to do anything until we produce ingots. So there's several ways you can do it. You can press it, which will create 1. If you click control, that will give you 10. Shifts 100, and control and shift together is 1000. So you can drag to put different items in different orders. Now what that's going to do is create the steel plates required. On the production queue you can see 2 tabs, required and available. Required is how much is required to complete the order that's left. So 105,000 or 91. The available is how many resources we actually have that is inside this, the whatever, either the survival kit or any of the other assemblers that you can get later on. So once the product is complete, you can press the middle mouse button and it will take out all the components, and if it's all the components needed, it will remove the item from the build planner. And that allows you to walk over here. So now I've got a block. Now what we're going to need is several more blocks to carry on, and a lot more mining. Okay, so now I've created this platform. It's a small platform with enough room required to put down all the blocks that we need. Now I know just from experience what it is, but what you need is 1 block for your assembler, 1 block for your base refinery, 1 for your survival kit, 1 for a cargo container, 1 for the new oxygen and hydrogen generator, and this block is for power. Now what power we're going to use for more consistency is we're going to use the wind turbine, which, so long as you haven't removed it, should be in block 7. Now it needs high clearance to work, and it will tell you when you have the ability to access the ship's internals whether it does or not. But to make sure we have high clearance, what we're going to do is we're going to build up 8 blocks. It should be enough, though I'm not sure looking at the tree, so we'll give it a go. What we need for this, though, is different to the other blocks so far, is an interior plate. So what we're going to do is land on the ground and go back to the ship. And we're going to go to production and find the interior plate. We're going to produce 10 of them. We can only produce 3. So we're going to take the 3 and fly back up to the top. And this gives us the ability to place the wind turbine. Now, we don't have most of the components, so what we're going to do is shift middle click again, or shift right click. Sorry, wrong button. And that's going to allow us add to the plan, to the build planner again. Then, now we're going to shift middle click and add it all to the production queue. But of course we don't have the resources, so we're going to need to do some more mining. My hydrogen has gone all the way down to 13, but I don't want to keep refueling it at the station because that takes time. If we open the O2H2 generator, you'll see 2 bottles and some ice. The ice is what you've been using to recharge up to this point and will slowly run down as you use it from the survival kit. But this hydrogen bottle allows you to last longer as it stores hydrogen. I grabbed the oxygen bottle, but we can come back to that. Allows you to refuel your tank automatically without having to go. There you go. You can see it's refilled there, and it's because it's gone down to 89%. And if I was put it back in, it would then take a whole lot of the ice, but refill the bottle, allowing me to access it later. This oxygen bottle, if I was on a planet that didn't have oxygen, would be used to make sure that I could breathe for longer out just traveling. but we'll leave that in there as we don't need it. Okay, so now that all the items have been created, we will middle click, removing the build commander as we've got all the components. And we will then successfully create a wind turbine, which is spinning fast enough as if it has clearance, so that's good. Next, what we're going to add is an assembler, which we did get rid of previously, but we can put an assembler down and a basic refinery. Now the basic refinery isn't quite how we'd like it, so if we press home to lift it up, now it has, unlike the assembler which only has one port, it has two connectors. So we'll then connect one connector to one side, but we need them with steel plates, and we'll use the other connector to connect to the other side. So if we go here, this allows you to access all the inventories inside. Well, see them all. Like this one we can't access as there's no connector from the seat to the to this panel, but if we were in the seat we could access it, but none of the other stuff. We're also not able to access the survival kit from this stuff in the survival kit, as it's only got small pipes, which, well, it does allow things like stone, gravel, and other basic resources. More complex stuff like ingots cannot travel through them. So that means we have to go right round to the kit and take, well, we'll take 10, which is control and click. Double click is all, control shift, if we had enough, would be only 100. Control and shift together would be 1,000. And double clicking's 1, and you can drag them all over at once. Or if you right click, you can add a very specific amount, but we'll take 10. We shall place it there. We'll go up to each one and I'll put as many resources in as possible. Then we will shift and right click, adding both whatever components we needed to these two items. So now we will go to the kit, shift middle click, and all components are now being put into production. Now now I got an alert saying the energy went low as we were placing that. The energy run low is for a few reasons. A, I've been using my lights, A, for the mining down here, and B, because it's got dark. The other reason is because on the bottom you can see oxygen high and the temperature button which says cold. Now your suit keeps you warm and stops you from dying in those temperatures, same within space. But if you run out of energy, then that cold button will then start killing me due to the cold. Now we're going to refresh our energy by pressing F, as we previously done at the survival kit. As you can see along the bottom there, it says you've unlocked new items. So if we press G and go to progression, you got the basic assembler here. Now by building the basic assembler, we've unlocked all these blocks, and all these other blocks here as well. This is the progression bar and each stage. So this is a projector, but to build a projector you need to build at least one of these items, and it keeps going down all the way down to the bottom. If it's each direct line connects to what can be built from that unlock. So that's what we got from the basic assembler. We don't have quite all the resources yet for the basic refinery though. So back to mining. Okay, so what we're next going to do is we're going to move the survival kit from here over to the main base. So first what we need to do is take the survival kit and remove everything from within it. Then we grind it down. Oh, so we've run out of room. So what we're going to go over here is then search for the survival kit. We grab the survival kit and bring it down. And then, whoops, we placed it the wrong direction. So we put it here. And we want to place it so that the connector on this side and this side are... So it's like that. And then we're going to... And then we go back to the old one. And because our inventory is full, but we ground the entire thing down, those components that we can't pick up are now sitting on the ground there. So if we go back, now that we put those components in, we can now pick them up. And then we now have a functioning survival kit. Now, the reason why we've built a basic assembler and a basic refinery and are using those instead is because well, I'll show you. When we put stone into the basic refinery, it just binds it. I don't have to tell it to. Which is incredibly useful. The basic assembler also has, if we go to the production tab and click basic assembler, it also has more equipment you can use. It also has the ability to disassemble stuff. So I can do that and click disassemble and it will dismantle this equipment. Now even getting to this stage can take a while, but as you saw, I started with over 1,000 ingots to make and I ended with just over 200. This means it took 900 just to build all this. Of course, next up, we need our cargo, a small cargo container, as well as H2, as well as an O2H2 generator. The cargo container with the small steel tubes, the main reason why we need to build it, why we needed the assembler in the first place. Of course, this only has 2 connectors on each side, so we need to point it so the connector's connecting, while a cargo container has connectors on all sides. Okay, so then we can shift right click each of the items and add them to our build planner. Then if we shift middle click, we can add them to our production queue, which will go to the basic assembler as the bigger item. Now of course we're out of resources again, so more mining. Now something that's important to know is that you can, if I press I on that panel, it will open the inventory for the survival kit, allowing me to move things in even though I do not actually have access to a panel. Now I am going to drag this down to the basic refinery because this thing can actually dismantle those things. Unlike if it was in the cargo container, this won't move items from here to here. And you can see that it's already automatically doing it faster than the survival kit and with less required resources. Of course, you can hear it starting and stopping because the power isn't actually quite so good, so what we're going to need to do is upgrade it. Especially if I go press K and click window brand. The clearance is optimal, which is actually really good because that's the best it can be. Now it's currently only outputting 16 kilowatts because that's all it needs to, but and at max it can now output 400. That means if too many things are running at once, some things will shut down. Now, while you can access the inventory from just one of these panels, you cannot pull resources out with middle click. You do actually have to access one of these buttons. So we have almost everything we need to be able to build this cargo container, as well as almost everything we need for this. Now, some of the resources we need like cobalt, you cannot actually get from stone, breaking down stone. You can only get iron, nickel, silicone, and gravel. So because of that, what we're going to do to get those resources for the metal grids, we need 4 of them, which there's 1 in each of these 4 thrusters. The other thing we need on this one are large steel tubes. Now, while we can make those, we don't need to, as the ship also, these thrusters have them. So by grinding them down and taking the resources out of them, we should now have all the resources needed to build a small cargo container, and not quite all the resources. On the frontier, you got a light. Always grind down the lights first, especially corner lights, which are in here. Because for some strange reason, on this side there, they're just on the inside there. For some strange reason, the way they've been designed, as soon as you grind down whatever block they're on, they despawn rather than just dropping to the ground like normal blocks. So our inventory's full, so we'll try to see whether we have a few more resources, but none of these are needed for it, so we may as well put those away. Oh, some of those came loose because they weren't actually attached to anything else. So we need more steel plates. Luckily, all these little blocks are steel plates. Even the ore detector, as well as the antenna, also have steel plates. We just need 16 more steel plates, plus another 10 to fully complete it, but only 16 more to make it functional. So if I could land on the top of this thing, there we go. Now each of these only have 1 steel plate, which means we need to grind down 26 of these. Okay, so we should have enough now. And voila. And we unlock more new blocks. So now the ice has gone to the O2 generator. Now the oxygen bottle isn't empty, which is why it hasn't moved in there. But we also have all these extra resources. Now, really, this is all we need. This is the start. You now have a basic base and all the things you need to start surviving. So next up what we need to do is upgrade our power, because even earlier when it was just these 3 items, anytime this went to create something, it would turn off the refinery's ability to refine stone. So what we're going to need to do is to increase our power output, where we'll look into more power. We will grind down the ship, and more importantly, we will build a rover so that we can go and explore. Because as you've been seeing throughout the day, throughout this recording, you'll been seeing unknown signals. These are little pods that have little amounts of resources in, but unless you either have, well, you can fly there and back. It is quite time consuming, and sometimes they can be in awkward positions to get to, so having a rover can help. Which is why I haven't been going for them. And the final thing we're going to do is teach you how to use the GPS tab. Well, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.